Welcome back, Operation Bushcraft friends and family. Today I have David from Days Production. He's never really been in a survival situation. I've taught him a few skills along the way. Today I'm going to give him a chance to actually see how certain techniques are used. I've got a ferro rod here. I've got a ferro rod on my hip. There's an old survival rule, two is one, one is none. So if I drop this ferro rod and roll it into a fire, it's going to burn up. It's not going to do me any good. So I have a backup ferro rod. I'm going to teach David today the way to use a ferro rod. There are 3 techniques I'm going to teach him right now, which is the pump, the hard scrape, and the rod pull, or the ferro rod pull. And then we're going to light a couple of fires, and we're just going to, I've got a burn pan here, because if you all know me, safety third, safety first, safety all the time. Everything we do, I preach safety. We're not going to go outside. It is pouring rain, really nasty weather, so we're sitting inside today. That's why I've got a burn pan. I've got a way to put stuff out. But there's some materials that David's not real aware of. First thing I want to get into is your ferro rod. Okay? If you are not practicing your skills on a regular basis, your ferro rod can do what's called oxidize, basically rust. So what you're going to want to do, I carry several different things on my person all the time. One of them is a miniature ferro rod. So I guess I've got 3 ferro rods. And so you don't think I'm BSing you. There's one, there's one, there's 2, there's 3. And I carry a huge ferro rod. I don't want to not get a fire. I will not be using the huge ferro rod today. I was just showing you that when I tell you something, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not going to tell you something that's not true. And like I said, I want you to be able to recreate it in any situation, whether you're at home practicing your skills or you're in a survival situation. I want you to be able to recreate everything step by step. So I have a striker here that you can use by angling down. It, again, that 45-degree angle. So you push that down, and you can get a spark that way. I can use it. It is my emergency. That's why it's on my neck. I carry this one, which is a much better scraper, and I can get sparks with that almost every time. I'm not going to use the little one today because I want you to be able to see things. You can pump a ferro rod to get a lot of sparks. Just going to make a wire out of it. There you go. So you can get a lot of sparks. You can pump it, and you can get a lot of sparks. Build up, dry out material, get that done. You can, if you've got oxidization, or you've used a knife, or you've dropped it and there's pitting, you can smooth that out by doing a hard scrape, and you can generate a lot of sparks and a lot of heat really quickly. I'm using an anvil, which is going to keep me from throwing sparks onto the table or throwing sparks into clothes. It's going to drive it right down into this wood. Now, if you're a different type of individual who likes to use a knife, you can take your knife, staying outside of your pyramid of death, making sure your blood bubble is clear. You can place your knife on your anvil. You can take your ferro rod. Why are you not striking? Let me try it another way. You can usually do it with a knife, but you can pull there it is. You can pull, and a lot of people like to pull their ferro rod back. I don't have the best scraper technique because I do not use the pull method a lot. I got some sparks. I can do it a couple of different ways. Try this again. I'm getting coating, I'm getting shavings, but I don't know. It's just not wanting to work for me. I did get sparks with the other pull method. Again, pull is not something that I do a lot of. I am more of a pump individual. I'd rather get a lot of sparks right now. I can pump it, I can get something nice. If you have a decent tinder, and it's dry and you don't have to dry it out, you can do a semi-hard scrape, slower, and you can shave. You don't want to do that. You just want to shave it down, and you want to get a decent amount of shavings off there. And once you do, you want to pump it one time, and you can see all those little different pieces from shaving that down. Now, I brought David in here today because he's never seen a lot of these. So you have your pump, your hard scrape, and your rod pull. Practice all the techniques. You never know what you're going to need. But we're just going to use a piece of tinder today. What did I do with that piece of jute twine, David?
It's underneath it.
Oh, is it underneath me? Did it fall like that? Thanks, sir. Now, I was going to show David this, but I decided to save it for the video because this ain't going to take very long. We're going to create tinder. This piece of rope, as it sits, I guess you could wrap it around your fingers, make a little ball, and you could probably set that on fire. David, today we're going to create what's called a bird's nest. I'm going to ask you to help me do that. I need you to take a piece of this string and separate it. Can you do that right now?
Cut it off?
No. Could you separate it right now?
Oh.
No, just answer my question.
Yes, I think, yes.
This string, you can separate that for me right now from one piece of string?
No.
Yes. Up here at the top, I'm just going to roll this jute twine between my fingers until it starts to fray a little bit. And when I do that, now, if it gets knotted up, you just smooth it out, and you come back up here and you grab a piece, and you just go ahead and start separating that one down. And I'm going to separate this over here into a few more smaller pieces. And I don't care if it breaks because I'm going to separate this all down. We don't need a big mess of it. But we're just going to make a bird's nest real quick, just a tinder bundle, so we can have a little quick fire, show you a natural tinder. Jute twine is a plant-based material, and we're just going to separate this down, process this down to as fine as we can get it, just a mess of hair. Because I don't want to burn the table, I used an anvil in an earlier video. I'm going to place my burn pan on top of my anvil, and I'm just going to separate this down just into these very finite hairs and just make sure everything's really good and separated, and just get basically a ball of finite hair, more or less. So we're just gonna process this down, and it ain't gotta be perfect. You want it separated. You want that finite hair. And what I'm gonna do with this is, to some people, going to be kind of crazy, but you'll see the wherewithal behind it. And just processing it down, just separating it out. And it's kind of keeping me honest that David's here. He can attest that, I haven't put anything in gas. I haven't used any accelerant of any kind. And maybe I didn't get a few strikes with my ferro rod in that I wanted to. But again, that's part of that keeps me honest process. Because not everything works all the time. There are different ferro rods out there. There are different strikers out there. There are different techniques out there. And everybody has their own tips and tricks. But I'd rather come up short once or twice and say, okay, this is something I need to work on. This is something I need to get better at. Because then it gives me a skill to practice, so I can go out and say, okay, I need to work with this type of ferro rod from this company. And, I need to see if this really works for me. Maybe I need to sharpen the 90-degree spine on my knife because I've used it a few times. Could be any number of reasons. The rod pull, like I said, not one of my favorites. I have learned what I call ferro rod control, so I don't always mash my Tinder bundle or push my Tinder bundle away from me, which a lot of people, when they start out using a ferro rod, mash their Tinder or push their Tinder away from them and totally destroy the Tinder bundle they've worked so hard to create. And you just don't want to do that. You want to watch what you're doing. You want to control your striking, everything of that nature. How you doing over there, Days?
I think I'm doing just fine.
All right.
It looks like
yours. This is good. You got any more?
Right there.
All right, we're just going to put this in here because this is, now I'm going to take this, and this is crazy. We just separated all this up. And granted, this is just what I call a small bird's nest. I'm just going to process this down. I'm going to pull it apart. I'm going to get it really good and processed. I'm going to mash and pull all these fibers together so that as you can see it come apart, you see I'm creating a little bit bigger nest than what we had originally, just by making sure that this is good and processed down. And then I'm just going to ball it up. For safety reasons, Days, I'm going to ask you to scoot back just a hair. You don't have to scoot back that much, just enough to be out of the line of fire. I am going to use the ferro rod that was giving me issues. I'm going to use the pump method. I'm hoping because this is jute twine, I only have to pump it once. I'm going to look around and make sure there's nothing flammable. And make sure there's nobody around me. I'm going to make sure I can't trip myself. Because why? Safety third, safety first, safety all the time. I'm going to put this right on the tip. I'm going to come up here. And voila. Now, jute twine is going to burn up pretty quick. So that little bird's nest ain't going to do a lot. You'll want a bigger Tinder bundle, as big as your head, or you're dead. I'm going to show you that here in a second. I'm going to walk out in the rain. I've got actual Tinder in my car, and I'll show you a Tinder bundle. While I'm doing that, Days, I am going to ask you I'm going to show you the technique, and then I'm going to ask you to imitate it for me, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to take, again, have I done anything with this duct tape? Is it just a roll of duct tape? There's no accelerant or nothing on it that you can tell? Let's take a look at that. You're going to take just the tip of your thumb and your index finger, and you're going to peel strips. And when you get these strips, you're going to see if you can make it any thinner. Like this one, I could probably make a little bit thinner, maybe. Let's see. And it doesn't have to be that thin. This is probably thin enough. It will work. But if you can do that for me, we're going to pause this video real quick. He's going to separate this. I'm going to walk outside. I've got to move some stuff around. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of a break. I had to check my resources. My duct tape was too thick. So now that I've processed this down, because you want to get these little bitty fibers out of a big old piece of duct tape. And it took a minute to process it down so you can see that is duct tape. We use this regular duct tape right here, and there are just finite threads that you have to get out of this duct tape in order to get it to ignite. So I'm going to do a couple of scrapes here, and then I'm going to go crazy with the pump. There it is.
Nice.
Fire via duct tape. It is not a skill that I would suggest. I'm tilting this pan because fire likes to climb. But there is a duct tape tender fire. Process down. It took forever to get enough fibers to actually be able to do a duct tape fire. But man, processing it down, getting those very fine hair-like fibers, and I mean, it doesn't burn for very long. I mean, in a survival situation, yeah, it would work. Like I said, I had to check my resources. Jute twine went a little bit quicker. In a bird's nest, it would work. But yeah, I'm gonna let that burn out because it ain't gonna take much longer. I mean, it does burn, but mind you, it has to be processed way, way down into hair-like fibers. And I'm just gonna take a piece here, and I'm just gonna show you real quick so you can see that. And I'm glad I paused it because it took me a minute to process it down. But you want to get in here with like a fingernail and that little bitty fibers here, Benny. I'm going to come up to you so you can see that little bitty fiber. And you can imagine how many it took to get that little bitty tinder bundle you saw. And once you process that down, especially if you haven't done it before, you've got to collect all these finite strands tape likes to stick. What can I say? Trying to get it to stick to the table, not to me. And you have to really take your time to process down each one of those individual fibers. And as you process that down, that piece of duct tape, I mean, hopefully you don't have a lot of anything else going on. That's why I suggest, I want you to smell that, Dave, since we're doing this video. It doesn't really smell like anything. Let me see that. Do me a favor, step back because you're my blood bubble. I'm going to just scrape off some fat wood shavings. And I don't need a whole lot. So I'm just going to carve this up. And then I'm going to put all my shavings together because you don't need a lot of fat wood. I knew he was coming up here. I knew he was going to be in my blood bubble. Being away from my person. And that's probably more than enough fat wood. In all honesty, I'm going to carve up a little bit more because I want to make sure we got enough. And fat wood is great because it's so rich, it's so resinous. And as you're seeing here, I'm shaving off these big curls. I mean, you don't need big curls. You don't need a whole lot of fat wood. I mean, I figured it would have lit because I'd shaved it down. Let me try shaving a little bit more because it should have lit right up. Because this is a darker fat wood, which is what you want. Yeah. And that'll burn. Because it's that resin, that pine resin in fat wood. Now that I've got some pretty decent curls and whatnot down in there, that should take a spark almost immediately. There it is. And now that fat wood will burn. It is a great wet weather fire start. It's probably, if I was going to carry something, I would carry fat wood because I can shave this off. And the reason I'm cutting some of this off is because I want you to smell this, Days. Should be able to smell almost kerosene coming off. That's that pine resin.
I really like that smell.
And you can carry a couple of sticks of that because you saw the little bit of fat wood that I've got shaved off of there. And, I mean, it burns.
Quite a lot.
So, we have covered the duct tape tinder fire, the fat wood ferro rod. I mean, I could use a lighter to light the jute twine. I used a lighter to light the fat wood that you just saw. I mean, lighter works. You can use the jute twine. You could use the duct tape. You can use fat wood shavings, and you can light it with a lighter. You can use a ferro rod, do a solar fire. But we went ahead and we did jute twine, which was your natural tinder with a ferro rod. We did the duct tape, Tinder fire, the fat wood and ferro rod, because I lit that fat wood I shaved down. And any of these I could have lit with a lighter, but you're not always going to have a lighter, or you're only going to have the sparkier lighter, which is a whole other thing we'll get into in another video. But like I was saying, if you have questions, comments, you can hit me up on the website at www.operationbushcraft.com, operationbushcraftin.com, or you can hit me up on Facebook. Feel free to leave me a message. I will get back to you. Maybe not right away, but I will get back to you. Other than that, until next time, struggle to make pudding.